We're clear for takeoff.
Welcome one and all to the Kings of the Heart podcast. My name is Tyreek Omari Walton. I'm a licensed clinical marriage and family therapist, and joined back here with me, my man, it's been a while. It's my man though, my brother, Dr. John Hart. Dr. Hart, welcome back, dude. How you feeling, man?
Be back. This is exciting, and I can't wait for us to, continue on the legacy of Kings of the Heart, baby. It's good to be back.
No doubt, man. Good to have you here. It's been a little while, man. I've been trying to keep the listeners involved with what's been going on with you. Let them know now. If I sound a little funny, because I got COVID currently. It's been a rough time for Kings of the Heart, man.
It's rough, man. But we still here. We gonna make sure we keep it down and keep going on for the people. So thank y'all for being very patient and having a lot of compassion. You know, it's crazy out here in these streets.
Yeah, he ain't lying, man. He ain't lying.
Man, what?
So since we're here, man, and what we do here is we like to talk to our listeners about different relationship topics, obviously, because we're both, marriage and family therapists. And a lot of this is so many things that we come across that involve this particular topic.
Yep.
The idea of peace in a relationship. Everyone talks about they're looking for peace. They want to have peace, but so few people know how to achieve it. And we want to break that down for you today. We want to break down for you what it means to have peace, what peace actually looks like, how you get there, how you sustain it, and more than anything, what gets in the way of being able to have peace in your relationship.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
So, Dr. John, let's just hop right into it, man. Help me out. When you think about the term peace as it relates to a relationship, what is peace? How do you define it? Because there's a lot of ways that people kind of define it to me. I'm like, I don't know if that fits. But how do you define peace in a relationship?
I don't know. I mean, I think so. Peace in a relationship. I don't want folks to get this twisted, but peace in a relationship does not mean not arguing, no disagreements. That's not what it's about. Peace is about having a sense of calmness on a consistent basis that allows people to grow individually and for both partners to grow collectively, right? So there's a calmness, there's a serenity piece to this. There's a, and again, I want to reiterate, at least like how I've talked to clients about peace is it allows you and your partner to grow. Because remember, chaos. What the opposite of peace is chaos. Chaos does not allow you to grow.
Right.
It stunts your growth, right? So that's how I've kind of conceptualized it. But I mean, like, how have you conceptualized it, bro? Like, how do you define peace? Like, what's your breakdown of that?
You know what happens, man? Oftentimes people come in and they say, I want peace, I want peace, I want peace. And usually when I ask them to define it, they say they just want things to be quiet. Yeah. They just want quiet. And even when they talk about what they do to maintain peace in the household, like, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to, if my partner has a lot to say, I just let them say it. I keep a lot of things in order to keep the peace. And I'm saying to them that that's not really peace, because if it still bothers you, then you're not at peace. It may be quiet in the household. There may not be a lot of chaos in the household, but you're not at peace. So having peace in your relationship means everyone finding resolution to whatever's going on so that no one's feeling particularly angry or caught up or have all these negative emotions around whatever the situation is. So peace to me, the way that I define peace is actually resolution. That's what peace is to me. Right?
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, that's resolution. And that's also at the core of many relationship concerns. Resolution. Right. So I like that, bro. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And so even when you think on that level, when you think about, okay, in order to even get to a place of peace, that means whatever the issues are, we need to figure out how to solve them. So why do you think it is that so many people just rely on quiet, that they just lean into things not really, jumping off in a negative way as being peaceful? Why do you think people think that's peace?
Um, well, I definitely think that that is like the superficial, easily digestible way for I think the average human, which
Right.
is right. When I say superficial, it's okay. Peace is quiet. Peace is no chaos. And what you're getting at is like there are other aspects to it that actually make peace a full blown experience. I don't
Hmm.
think they know that it's a full blown experience. I think they understand it to be, oh, no arguing, just being quiet, and all this other stuff. But that's it's not it. But I think the way it tends to be talked about just regularly, even in a casual way, I think that's the other part of it too. I think peace is not talked about far more intentional, which is why I was saying, to give the listeners a heads up that I was pretty
Right.
excited when we were coming up with this topic because I said, going to this point right now, people are casually talk about peace, but I don't think they really understand that it goes beyond that superficial, oh, it's just being quiet.
Exactly. Exactly. And when I think about the clients who kind of lead into that, one of the things I recognize too, a lot of the ones who are on that wavelength, they are usually the conflict averse ones,
Yep.
right? They're the clients who are more conflict averse, the ones who don't want to stir anything up. They're the ones who are trying to avoid any kind of conflicts, even if it's just a disagreement, any kind of conflict, because they don't want their peace disturbed. But again, there's no peace there. There's no peace. You can't say that you don't want your peace disturbed when you're not feeling at peace about things. And so they kind of again use that sense of being conflict averse to use I can't even think of the word to make it seem as if things are fine. The things are fine. I'm keeping it quiet. They can wild out if they want to, but I'm keeping it quiet. And they use that as a form of, again, kind of controlling what's happening around the household. But again, I don't think that's really, it's not healthy for the relationship. And
Mhm.
obviously we want healthy relationships. So it's not healthy for relationships if you're not addressing the different concerns you're having, because again, that is not peace.
I agree with that. That's well said. I really do. I also really appreciate you bringing up the folks who are conflict averse.
Hmm.
I know you and I talk about that all the time because not in all couples, but there's usually one person and one partner in the relationship who tends to be conflict averse, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen that, right? That's
Right.
actually one of the common ways of what we've talked about in other episodes, like that pursue or withdrawal. There's usually someone who's like, that's not, I don't want
Hmm.
it,
Hmm.
and then they either shut down or they're literally like, I'm out, peace, right? So
Right.
it's that can be problematic, but I think one thing that comes up for me that I want to kind of throw out there to you to see what your thoughts are is with especially those folks who are conflict averse,
Hmm.
knowing that they're seeing that as a sign of peace, don't want to talk about it, I don't want to make things worse, right?
Hmm.
At what point is that a personality trait, right? And how can people manage that? Because
Right.
that has been the reason why I'm focusing on that group is not to isolate folks, but even you and I off camera, we've talked a lot about that particular group, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm emphasizing, like, is that a personality trait, bro? Or is it just
Yeah.
folks who've just learned maladaptive ways of just handling that?
I think it's both. I think it's both. I think it is, a learned behavior. You talk to a lot of these people who are conflict averse, and you find out from their families of origin
Mhm.
where they didn't feel heard. They saw a lot of conflict themselves, and
Yep.
the negative, the hurt, the fear that came from those kind of interactions that they saw with their families. For them, it's a learned behavior, and I think after a while, it does become a personality trait.
Mm.
Right. It's something that you've learned, but now it's become part of who you are. And it's kind of hard to break away from that. And
Mhm.
so a lot of the work that I do with my clients is around, I'm sure you do the same thing, is around learning how to be more assertive,
Mm.
being able to
Yep.
get away from that kind of passive aggressive behavior, and being able to be more direct around what's going on with you and how you're feeling, so that you're not being stuck all the time with these holding on to all these negative feelings.
No.
So that's that's part of the process of working with someone who's conflict averse, recognizing where it comes from, helping them. I can't tell you how often, as we're breaking things down, they realize, oh, That's where I get it from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now that you
Mm-hmm.
recognize that, what do we need to do to change it so that you're able to get out of that when it comes to dealing with your mate, when it comes to working with your mate and interacting in a healthy way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right. What do you think? Is it a personality trait or is it learned behavior from your standpoint?
No, I definitely think it's both. I think
Right.
it's both. I don't. I mean, and who knows what the percentage split is? But I like the way that you had mentioned it. It is, and it can work in so many different ways. Some people can just start showing that behaviorally, and then that just becomes an enduring trait of them, which then bleeds into their personality, right? Remember,
Right.
personality is an enduring process. Like it's not
Right.
a one-time thing. Like for someone to keep engaging in said behavior, it becomes this enduring thing, which means that it's slowly tapping into their psyche, it's slowly tapping into their consciousness,
So
which
they don't know any better at that point, right?
my man. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I've always seen it. So I'm with you
Hmm.
on that. I definitely think it's both. It just can work in so many different ways. And the flip side to it is also there are people who have personality traits that do elicit these kinds of behaviors. So that
Hmm.
it's almost like it's organic, right? So it can work in both processes. But
Right.
yeah, that's kind of how I've conceptualized it. That it's not like a linear process when it comes to this.
Yeah.
Folks who are very conflict averse who think, "Oh yeah, I just want peace," right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, no, I'm with you on that, brother.
And so considering that one of the things that we're saying here is that people who tend to be conflict averse are what you're seeing there, they're kind of keeping the peace from actually occurring fully. It may appear again, it may appear peaceful that because you have some sort of quiet and a lack of chaos in the moment, the relationship itself may seem peaceful, but again, you're not at peace. That's one of the roadblocks to actually achieving peace. You're not addressing what's going on with you. And so you're not feeling at peace. So again, the relationship itself is not at peace.
Yeah,
What are some of the other roadblocks to actually achieving peace within a relationship?
stress. I mean, that
Okay.
one really comes to mind. Like
Uh-huh.
the reason why I bring up stress is it's such a prominent part of life.
Mm.
Like you're going to deal with stress, and I think when folks are Oh, and stress is one of them, but what really can lead to a non-peaceful life in existence is not coping with stress or using maladaptive strategies to manage the stress.
Right.
Right. And those are people who the reason, another reason why I bring up stress is like folks who are both who are stressed and also aren't using healthy strategies and coping mechanisms. I don't mean to be judgmental, but I think you would agree too. Like those are the folks who, on a consistent basis, their lives feel like it's straight chaos all the time. So
Right.
it's hard for them. Meaning you don't even have to be in a relationship with them. You just got to be around them, and
Yeah. It's,
you
it's
just
heavy, right?
yeah, like
Yeah,
you
that
feel
weight.
that weight, and
Hmm.
I can imagine like our listeners would agree with me, and that's why I'm bringing it up. Like we all deal with stress, so it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that like stress equals means that you're not at peace or you can't be there. I want to be clear again. It's experiencing stress, yet using maladaptive, unhealthy coping mechanisms that really keep someone in chaos.
Yeah.
So then it's hard for them to really be at baseline. It's hard for them to really relate to to peaceful people. They don't even know
Mhm.
what to do with that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And technically, peaceful folks or folks who are fighting to maintain a lifestyle of peace, because let me also reiterate again, peace is a lifestyle. Like you have to work towards that.
It's a state of being, right?
State of being, brother.
Hmm.
So when those folks get around people who are not just stressed, because we are all stressed, but people who are stressed and using maladaptive ways, unhealthy ways,
Yeah.
that's where you start seeing people who are trying to live a life of peace. That's where you see their boundaries come up because that heaviness, that toxicity, that energy
Hmm.
it's palpable, bro.
Hmm.
It can, if you're not careful, it can slowly seep into your thing, which is why Brother Reek and I wanted to have this conversation about peace within relationships, because who else do you spend the most time with outside of your kids? Your partner.
Right. Man, that could be a whole nother conversation. Peace with
I
your
mean,
kids.
I mean,
That
yeah,
could be a whole nother
that's a
conversation.
whole nother one, brother. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but what are your thoughts about like what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. You know, stress being one of them. And again, like you said, we're all going through stress to
Yeah,
one degree or another. We're all experiencing it. And so, to me, when you talk about peace within your relationship, when you're stressed out, you're not even at peace with yourself.
absolutely, bro.
You know,
Absolutely.
so it's hard to actually find peace with anybody else when you're feeling that kind of stress on yourself, and you're not at peace. You know, so part of the process of finding peace further down the line in your relationship is figuring out how to deal with that stress. Those maladaptive behaviors you're talking about, hey, you got to get over that.
Yeah.
You got to work through that. You got to process that
Yep.
so that you can get to this other side. You know, so that stress is a major one, is a major, major one. You know, and another one that I often think about is um, the oh man, I lost it.
And that's
The
part of being sick, brother.
I
That's
know
part of
that.
being
Still got
sick.
that COVID brain, man. That fog is like real,
Yeah.
man. Let me tell you.
Real talk. Real talk. Yep.
But the one that if I can remember this correctly, one of the major roadblocks to me is boundaries.
Mm.
That's what is boundaries,
Come
not
on now.
having good boundaries,
Come on now.
right?
Speak on it. Speak on it. Speak on it.
When you don't have good boundaries, when you're not able to um, tell people or show people, you know, the limitation they have to you, the access they have to you, being able to control how people are having being able to interact with you, there's always going to be a good amount of tension around that, because if you're not feeling good about things, it's not necessarily just stress and you're not feeling good, but if you're not feeling good about the relationship, if you're not feeling connected, if you're feeling like the intimacy is struggling or the romance is struggling, if you're just generally not feeling good about the relationship because of some of the things that your mate may be doing, some of their own behaviors,
Yep.
then you're not going to be at, you're never going to be at peace. But if you're not able to control how they're actually engaging with you, you're not going to feel peace. You're not going to feel any peace.
Mm.
You know, so you really have to be able to structure those engagements in a way that feel healthy to you, where you feel safe,
Mm.
so that you guys can communicate and engage, right?
Mm.
But if you don't have those healthy boundaries, if you don't know how to set boundaries, then you're always going to feel impacted by negatively by people's interactions with you when you don't feel safe. You know, so it's really a matter of establishing healthy boundaries and letting people know, look, this isn't acceptable to me. And I know you may have a hard time accepting that. I know you want to challenge that because you're used to being able to come at me and have access to me any which way you want to. But in order for us to be able to get along long term, then you need to be able to respect these boundaries. So boundaries is a major one for me. Major, major one for me. How about you? Is there another one you got to keep in mind? Or is that something that you wanted to speak on?
No, boundaries is pretty good. I actually work with my clients a lot on boundaries regarding
Mm,
the said thing because, I mean, as we both know, as married men, you, it's not black and white thinking. By setting boundaries with your
not at
partner,
all.
right? It's by setting boundaries with the partner if they're going through something and they're not at peace or whatever. That's not a sign that you don't care and you don't love them. Not
Right.
at all, actually.
Right.
Like they're, one of my closest and dearest friends has always said, and I remember him saying it leading up to, our wedding. He was like, "Look," he was like, the thing that's interesting about relationships is the worst thing that can happen is for both people to not be at peace, and that's
Mm-hmm. Oh,
really a
man.
bad recipe, right? So
Mm-hmm.
boundaries is as Brother Reek was saying, and we've talked about this over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah,
through
we've had a lot of conversations around boundaries.
boundaries has always been a sign of love. Like it's not about
Mm-hmm.
not loving you or caring, but it's like I see that you're going through a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I will inquire and see how I can help and support. And not but and this also means that whatever you need any kind of resolution on or any unresolved things that goes beyond my ability and my capabilities,
Right.
there's not much I can do here because I also have to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Again, nothing selfish about that because the goal here is to still check in on your partner, is to
Yep.
still ask what kind of help and support. But the worst thing to do is like Brother Rick saying, do not take that on.
Yeah.
Do not do that. And couples tend to do that. We see that a lot in couples therapy. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And again, there's certain situations where it plays a little bit different. So a
Mhm.
good example is if and when your spouse loses a family member, that's different because that
Mhm.
level of compassion
Yeah.
skyrockets.
Yeah, it has to.
You
You're right.
see them hurting and they're grieving, so
Yeah.
that's different. But if they're stressed about something at work or they're not at peace about something at work, what in the world can you do other than just to be an ear, be
Mhm.
there for them, support them?
Support them, right.
But you do not drive to their workplace. That's not your, you know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do? So, you know what I mean? Because
Like, you can step to the person that's bothering them at work.
right, like what are you honestly about to do? It's like you can't.
Right.
So, the boundaries part is to also say, like I had started out, like both people can't be rattled and be in a state of stress, chaos, and non-peace. Somebody has to be grounded enough to keep things going because remember, folks, life doesn't stop when you're
Right.
not at peace,
Right.
but we end up losing perspective when we're not at peace, and
Mhm.
that's what I mean by like somebody needs to be grounded enough to still say like, hey, we got to keep this moving. It's not about being dismissive, but remember, this conversation on peace is to say that when we're not at peace, we're not grounded, and we lose perspective, and that's dangerous.
Mhm. Yeah. What do you think are some other things that kinda get in the way of peace? What else blocks there being peace, a healthy peace within a relationship?
Within a relationship,
Mhm.
I mean, I'll say this, and it's not a reflection of even like my own family, but like kids. I mean,
Mm.
like
So, yeah, here and talk about that one.
yeah. So like, parenting is very difficult. Parenting is like very, very difficult, and I'm not
Right.
talking about like, oh, it's noisy and all these things, but parenting is really difficult. And parenting, for all the parents out there, know that and let me preface by saying like what I'm saying here about parenting is a different kind of peace
Mhm.
where it's parenting is constant, it's ups and downs,
Right.
it's highs and lows,
Right.
it's happiness and smiles mixed with like screaming and yelling and crying, and it's like, and that's not even the kids, that's the parents. So, so that's not peace to me. If I'm
Right.
going to be brutally honest, like that's not peace, and it doesn't mean that I'm not at peace as a father of our beautiful twins. That's
Mhm.
not what I'm saying. Is but one thing that I have learned, a very critical lesson that I've learned, is that when you have kids, you do sacrifice significant amount of your peace to
Mm.
ensure that your kids are okay. And if
Right.
you don't,
Right.
you will have further problems.
Mhm.
So that's why it's like parenting, you feel it in your bones. So that's why I said like the kids can be watching their show or playing with their toys and they're quiet. Yeah, but I gotta be honest, bro. You and I talk all the time, and I think a lot of parents would agree, but I'm not always at peace because I'm like, what are we going to eat for dinner? And oh my gosh,
Mhm.
we got the appointment next week. What are we going? We got to make sure that they're talking so that way they stay on track with their development, and that raises a lot of stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
And so I want to be clear here. I'm not saying that children are a source of not being in peace, but what I've realized is that to literally, not just legally, but to morally and ethically sacrifice yourself for your child because they are counting on you to keep them
Yeah.
alive. You know how much
Yeah.
pressure that is to,
That's a
to,
lot of pressure, bro.
to keep someone alive?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not going to be at peace. You won't.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about lack of sleep, not eating, not being able to go to the bathroom when you went. No, 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 no. That just comes with the territory. I'm talking
Mhm.
about the existential processing day in and day out, bro. Every minute. When I tell
All those
you,
decisions you have to make for
oh, when I
somebody else.
bro, even when they're not around. That's why I'm saying it's
Right.
do you know how much I think about my kids? I think about my kids literally every minute of every day. I
'Cause
think
you a
about
good dad, man. You're a good dad. Go ahead.
you know what
Go
I mean?
ahead, Doctor
So
John, Papa John.
thank you, bro. But that's what I mean by like that's another piece that I had to name because um parenting is hard.
Yeah.
And it's not peaceful. What comes with becoming a parent is you have to sacrifice some form of your peace.
Right.
And again, it doesn't mean that you don't get that back in return. You get those blessings back in return when you see those smiles, those hugs, those kisses. But But to bring it back to the relationship, co-parenting is even harder. So parenting is
Mm,
hard.
yeah.
Co-parenting is even harder.
Yeah. Yeah. You ain't lying. But very well said, man.
Thank you,
Very
brother.
well said. There's one more that keeps coming to mind for me as well. You
Yeah, what's
know,
that?
it kind of still falls in the umbrella of unresolved issues. It's all those past hurts.
Ah,
It's all those things that you have not dealt with, all those things that you guys have not resolved that have built up over the years. That's another major one when it comes to what blocks you from actually finding peace in your household. When you are someone who has dealt with trust issues, when there have been a lack of consideration, when there have been things that have caused you hurt, that have damaged the relationship over all the years that you guys have been together, however long you guys have been together, all those past hurts build up. We've talked before about the whole negative the bank account,
mhm.
emotional bank account,
Yep, yep.
and being in debt over and over. And the idea is that when that debt hasn't been paid, when you have done very little to work on the hurts, to rebuild the trust, then that's always going to get in the way of there actually being peace in the household. Because again, your mate is not at peace.
Yeah,
There's a lot of unresolved issues that are still sitting on their chest that they at some point are going to bring up. So again, one of the things you see with clients who are dealing with infidelity, right? And the person who did the cheating is always like, "Yo, they won't let it go.
yeah,
They won't let
yeah,
it go."
yeah.
No matter what I do, they won't let it go because your mate hasn't found peace with you yet. So
Absolutely,
you're
bro.
not going to feel any peace. That's because everything you do from now on is going to remind
True.
them
It's true.
of
That's well
whatever it is
said.
that you did, and so they're going to bring it up. So there goes the peace right there. So once you break that trust, you can pretty much guarantee there's not going to be any peace in your household for a pretty long time. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
And
well said.
so,
Yeah.
so you have to actually work on the healing aspect. I mean, we're about to get into how you find and achieve peace, but as long as that hurt, as long as that distrust is still playing a major role in your relationship, you will not find peace. Peace will not exist.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
mm,
So,
yeah.
so just kind of move things along a little bit, Dr. John. What can our clients do? What can our listeners do? What can people do to actually work towards and achieve peace within their relationships?
Uh, so this is probably the both clinician and researcher inside me. I think people have to do a full check-in with themselves first. Do a
What do you
full
mean?
check-in with yourself. Like assess like what's going on. Is there anything causing you stress? Is there anything unresolved that needs resolution, right? Because
Okay.
here's the problem, brother. Like people are just responding and acting. People aren't slowing down and being honest to take the time to say what's going on with me for me to not be at peace.
Right.
People are just naming all kinds of things. Oh, it's the job. Is it really though?
Mm,
Are you just throwing that out there? And I'm not being dismissive, but it's like, but is it really? And the first step, and people are not going to like this. I say to my clients all the time, not going to like it because people are always looking for their tangible thing. No, the tangible first thing to do is to slow your butt down and take the time to do a check in with yourself. Ask
right.
questions like, am I at peace? What does peace look like for me right now? What's blocking that? What's causing that? How's my health? How's my mental health? Like what are topics is regarding my relationship? How are we doing? Just
Oh
because
yeah,
we
that's
aren't
a good one.
right, just because we aren't arguing, are there things that when I think about it are still bothering me?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like people aren't slowing down, bro. And I'm probably saying this because like I had a client last night and she really, really responded very well to it because it's not about just, hey, what do I do next? People we as a society need to do better at slowing down because a lot of the answers are actually in front of us before we get to our
Hmm.
therapist,
Hmm.
before we talk to friends, before sit down. Why you always got to talk to somebody? Talk to yourself. No, you're laughing, but be honest, bro. Like people
You're
aren't
right.
doing that.
Right.
So how can you practice peace before we rattle off anything? How can you practice peace if you cannot slow down?
Right.
Check in with yourself first.
Hmm.
Check in
Right.
with yourself. Look, if you can check in with yourself about what you want to eat, you can damn sure check in on like all the other stuff. Am I wrong?
Right.
Tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're right. You're right on with
Yeah,
that. You're right on it.
so I'm sorry, and all of our listeners, long time listeners, know that been following us for the longest, know that like, yeah, like I do that a lot. Where it's like people want to hear activities and no, the first activity is to ground yourself, like
Yeah.
slow down, practice slowing down, because how else are you going to build awareness? How else will you talk to Brother Reek in session about what's going on? Because he's going to ask you the questions.
Mm-hmm.
So how you going to sit there in front of the man, waste $145, $200, and you're like, oh, I don't know. Well, slow down.
Right.
Now you can use this session to do that, or you can like be practicing to slow down and say, am I at peace? What does that mean? Like all those questions that I just rattled off are really good internal assessment questions that can
For
assess your
everything.
peace.
For everything.
Right?
Right. Yeah. There's one thing that you said in there that made me think of another barrier to peace in your relationship.
Mm.
How much of your information you're sharing with people outside your relationship?
Yeah.
How much are you talking to your friends, your family, your coworkers, your work husband, your work wives? How much of your life or the complications you're having in your relationship are you sharing with other people? Because you're gonna have some instigators in it. You're gonna have some people who are gonna continue to ask you about what's going on, even when you're working towards having a more peaceful relationship, when you're trying to resolve some of those old issues, and they're gonna keep it alive in your mind.
Yeah.
And so there can be times where you may be talking about some good times you and your mate had, and they can be like, well, what about such and such? Now all of a sudden you're triggered again. And it's keeping that negativity alive. So your mate might be doing the work, to overcome those past hurts and past trust issues, but because other people are instigating and keeping things alive because of how much you're out there sharing.
Yeah. That's a good point.
That's also going to be a barrier to you finding peace in your relationship. But anyway, we don't want to keep focusing on the barriers. Again, we're trying to talk about how to get to a place of peace. And I like what you said. The only thing I really have to add to that is, again, it's the resolutions. Like, yeah, you need to do all
Absolutely.
that. You need to do all
Absolutely.
that self check-in.
Yeah.
Like Dr. John said, what does peace mean to you? What's stopping us from having peace here? But when you do see that a lot of the peace that you're lacking in your relationship is due to unresolved issues, those past hurts,
Absolutely. Yep.
You have to resolve those issues, which means you can't be passive about it,
Great
which
point.
means
I
you
was
can't
just
be
going to say
conflict
that.
avoidant, right?
I
You can't.
mean, yep, that's spot on, man. It was literally on the tip of my tongue. Sadly, and we've seen this in sessions, folks who are not at peace will externalize it to the point where it's like, I don't know what to do, and things will just keep happening. And it's like, but what role, even if that is the case, what role can you take here? Tangible, concrete steps that you can take to really own or start working towards getting your peace back. So I love
Right.
what you said, man, because like at the end of the day, like there has to be resolution, there has to be steps, there has to
Yeah.
be, and to add to what Brother Reek is saying, um, and Reek and I always talk about this all the time, and that is when you are trying to explore resolutions, there's a couple of underlying steps to that. One, start with your needs.
Mm-hmm.
What do you
Yeah,
need?
for sure.
Start
Right.
there.
Right.
It's the best place to start. If you got into an argument with your significant other 2 days ago and you're still reeling from it and you're not at peace about it, then explore like what is it? Do I need an apology? Do I need more time to process with them? Do I need some space? What do you
Mm-hmm.
need? And then
Mm-hmm.
so focus on your needs when you think about this idea of finding resolutions. Because I have clients who will ask me all the time, well, not just what does that mean, but like where do I start? Start with your needs,
Right.
because that is the
Right.
part that needs to be resolved, a la what
Right.
Brother Reek is saying, right? So you start with your needs. And then secondly, make sure that whatever you guys come up with, anything, I usually tell both, it's clear, it's concise, and it's
Mm-hmm.
something that you can do consistently.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be very concrete, clear, concise, concrete, consistent.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 C's: clear,
Mm-hmm.
concise, consistent, and what did I say? I'm missing the C. But it's the whole idea of concrete. The reason why concrete is important is because don't come up with abstract things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what do I need? I just need to be happy. I don't know what the hell that means. I don't know what that mean? What the hell does
Right.
that mean? Like, but if
Right.
you say something like, you know what, I got into an argument with my spouse, and as I'm sitting here with you, Dr. John, talking about it, I think one thing that I noticed that I need for me to get back to a place of baseline and peace would be, I think I need to follow up conversation with them. I didn't say as much as I probably wanted to say or I needed to say. So I need, you see how clear that is? I need a
Hmm.
follow up conversation. Why? Well, because I didn't talk as much in the argument we had a couple of weeks ago. You know what I mean? And the interesting thing about being consistent is, we're human beings, so we're both unpredictable and predictable. There's a good chance that if and when this comes up again, you learn from this moment and then apply it the next time to say to yourself, like, oh, here's another argument. The last time, one of the ways that I felt incomplete and not at peace was I didn't speak up as much. And we
Right.
and we had to have a follow-up conversation. So you know what I'm
Yep.
going to do this time? Now that I see that we're heading in that direction, I got to speak up this time to
Yep.
reduce the stress, to reduce any anxiety. So that way, when we do finish this conversation, I can be more at peace. You see how
Yeah.
that works, folks?
Yep.
That's how that works.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's I can't add much more to that. Dr. John took that away right there. He took that away. He put the nail, the hammer on the nail.
Yeah,
The head
there
of
you
the,
go.
he can't. Well said. Very well said. I
I
just
mean,
want
but you feel me on that, though,
no
right?
100%. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I really can't add nothing more to that. You
Yeah,
took it home. You took it
yeah,
home.
yeah.
I just want listeners to recognize that one of the things that you really need to focus on as you are working on resolution is the method in which you're doing it. When clients come in and work with us, communication is one of the main things we have to work on first.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
you can't finish the conversation on communication without getting to problem solving.
Absolutely.
So you have to walk through all those steps on how to solve problems properly. Because the idea behind that is once you guys have found resolution to whatever the issue is, you have to agree on it and agree on it in a way where you're not going to feel bitter or resentful later on.
Good point.
You don't want to agree to something that's going to bother you further down the line. You don't want to agree to a resolution that you're just not comfortable with. So
Correct.
you have to compromise, you got to negotiate, you have all these different elements you have to go through in order to get to a good place with it. But the idea is if you're still holding on to something at the end, if you're feeling resentful because you've decided with this person to resolve an issue in this way, then again, there's not going to be any peace. So you have to be good with whatever the decision is and
Yep.
hold tight to that. If you get to this place of problem solving and your guys aren't coming up with good answers, that's when you come to people like us.
Yep. Yep.
Sit down, let's talk about it. Let us give you some other perspectives to consider so
Yep.
that you're not sitting up there struggling with the idea that only way we can resolve this issue is if I surrender to whatever it is my mate's saying. That's not going to lead to peace. That's not a path to peace at all. This is further, you're just pushing the conflict further down the line. And that's what we're trying to avoid. Right?
Damn, I can't add to that. I mean, that was fire right there. I mean, look, this is the beauty about this is the beauty about this platform. This is the beauty about like us talking about, these kind of scenarios because it comes up so much for everyday couples.
All the
Everyday
time.
couples, like
All the time.
both partners are always talking about peace, and that's where I will always, and I know you do it too. I always will reassure and reiterate to both partners that, believe it or not, your partner also wants peace.
Mm-hmm.
They do.
Right.
They do. Because no one, if we're going to be objective here, no one technically enjoys living in chaos. Even the most chaotic person, you catch them on a good day, will even tell you, "I don't like this. I don't enjoy it."
Right.
I may get off on it, but I don't fully enjoy it.
Right.
They're two different things, folks. Don't get it
Yeah.
twisted. You can get off on something and still not enjoy it. So there's nothing more I can add, and I actually really appreciate you highlighting that one of the scariest things about not addressing it the way Brother Rick is saying is like when you kick that can down the line, it creates far more problems.
Oh my God.
And that's where we don't, like he said, we don't want it to get to that point. That's why you have to come and see us if and when those moments happen. So that's very well said. Like I was following that and I was like, Yeah, that's appropriate for our listeners to really hear, because I don't think a lot of people know about that particular perspective, bro. Honestly.
Mm, no, no. And the additional part to that too is when you are beginning to get to a place of peace, when you're beginning to, and I think this kind of helps us transition to the idea of maintaining the peace.
Mm,
One of the things you have to do is learn to, and I think we mentioned this earlier, you have to start letting things go.
yeah, yeah.
You have to start letting things go. And oh no, 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 hold on. Before I go there. The other piece that, and I think this goes back to the whole definition around peace as well. I have a lot of clients who, in their minds, like I said, just want quiet. Think it's just look it. As long as you leave me alone, we're at peace, right? I remember years ago being on this panel, and the question was, "What do men want?" And when they came to me, that was my answer. Men just want peace. I mean, I think we all want peace, but men in particular, we want peace. But again, we don't always understand what peace is.
Correct.
Just someone leaving you alone isn't peace. You have to learn how to still be able to engage with people, right? And I think even when you're thinking about wars and everything like that, peace isn't just things have stopped. No, we just know we have to know how to engage in a much more healthy way, right? And so when you are establishing that sense of peace within the relationship, that also means you guys are learning how to communicate in a more healthy way. You guys are engaging in a more healthy way. So if you think that things are peaceful now just because things are quiet and you guys aren't actually addressing things or dealing with each other, you're still not at peace. So the idea is that okay, part of our whole trip to achieving peace is actually learning how to engage with each other in a more healthy way.
Yeah.
That's when you know you're at peace. When you can actually spend 2 weeks with your mate, just having a good time, feeling good about each other, feeling good about the time that you're spending together, and you're not arguing, then you know you've moved towards an area of peace. Just because you went off into your own separate areas of the house and you're not engaging, that's not peace. It
Yeah.
may feel peaceful at the moment, but that's not peace. Real peace is when you're able to continue engaging and not have conflict. That's what peace actually looks like, right? So we got that. So now let's transition to maintaining it because it's hard enough building it. It's hard enough getting to that place of peace and achieving peace. But yo, once you get there, how do you keep it? How do you keep things peaceful?
Yeah. I think a few things come to mind. I like what you said, especially in a committed relationship. You do have to let things go.
Yeah.
You cannot internalize everything your partner says, doesn't do, doesn't say. You can't, like, I think, and I'm only speaking from personal experience. Like, I know my wife and I think one of the biggest strengths of our relationship and marriage is that we have a really strong sense of, I'm gonna let that go. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I know this person well enough to know that they may be stressed or they may be going through something or whatever it is. I'm not going to internalize that, you
Right.
know. But then, because the internalizing part is when you make it personal, then that's where, yeah, it's not going to be peaceful.
Right.
And you're dealing with another human being, so you can't. They're going to do what they do. They're going to say what they say, and it doesn't mean that you can't hold them accountable. And we're not saying that to let everything go. But I think Brother Reek is absolutely right. I think one of the things that, like, long term successful healthy couples do is they end up figuring out it, and it's a process. Don't get it twisted. It's a process to figure out what to let go, what not to let go. And that leads
Mm-hmm.
me to my second one is, when you do get to points where you can't let it go, talk, and talk in a way that's very vulnerable and very it's personal. You're not talking to a stranger on the street. Like, you have to be able to let them know they can't read your mind. It's like, hey, like, you made a joke the other day, and I realized it's still sitting with me.
Right.
I want to talk about that. I know
Right.
you were playing. I do. I love you. I know you were playing, but I started doing some thinking, and I realized that I'm still bothered by it, and
Mm-hmm.
I need you as my partner. I want to create some space for us to talk more about not just the joke and what you said in your intent, but I need my partner here to help me process, like, what's really going on. I wonder, like, is that a hidden sensitivity? So, um, You got to talk. I think the couples who do really well about maintaining peace, I think they do a really good job on like when these small, medium speed bumps come up, they really do talk and they do
Right.
find resolution to it.
Right.
And I think the other thing that I'll say real quick about maintaining peace that I've seen both with couples and also in my personal life is, to Brother Reek's point, boundaries.
Hmm. Yeah. Maintaining
There,
those boundaries, right? Once you establish them, maintaining them, right?
I mean, you have to. I mean, we've all been there where you come home and your partner's in a weird place.
Right.
You don't know what happened, you know what it is, and it's not your job to like jump on them and figure it out and solve their problems. You need boundaries to say to yourself like, hey, let me check in, as we talked about earlier. Hey, I'm here, what do you need? I'm here to support. And then you give them space. You
Right.
give them space because you need space. You probably been having a really great day. I know my wife and I do that really, really well. We do it really, really well. If the other person is just like not doing well, you check in,
Yep.
you ask what they need, and you
Yep.
leave them alone to give them space, but to give
Yep.
your space so you can preserve the peace that you came in the house with. And a lot of people don't know how to do that.
You ain't lying. Ooh, you ain't lying. You are Dr. John, you is not lying, brother. When I think about maintaining peace, the first thing that comes to mind for me is consistency, man. It's consistency. You have to be consistent. You have to be consistent in the changes of behavior that you already agreed on has been problematic. So if you guys have come to resolution around some issue, well, if you continue to do the behavior,
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
that disruption in peace is going to happen. You can't avoid it.
yeah,
So you have to make sure that you're maintaining whatever that new behavior is. You can't keep going back and forth. This has to be a growth thing. This has to be evolution, in your behavior and your interactions with one another. As long
well
as you're
said.
maintaining those negative interactions and those past behaviors, then the peace is always going to be disrupted.
Yeah,
So that you have to be consistent. And I think that's the one thing that people have such a hard time with. Yes, we've come to an agreement around what it is that we need to be doing differently, or how I need to be behaving differently, right? How I may need to grow up or put in more effort. But people have such a hard time maintaining that consistency. It's like they're so used to living like earlier when you're talking about personality traits, right?
yeah,
When certain behaviors have been so repetitive that they become part of who you are, there's a lot of work that has to be done to undo that.
absolutely. Well said.
So much work that has to be done to
Well
undo
said.
that. And so what you end up having to do is doing a lot of work around overcoming those long-term personality traits. How do I undo those things? And then maintain that consistency. So yeah, you have a lot of clients who say, well, they'll start something and then they'll stop. Or you'll hear somebody say, well, I wasn't getting what I needed from my mate, so I stopped. No, look it, you have to actually do your own work in maintaining the behavior that's going to lead to a healthier, more peaceful relationship. If you're not,
For the collective. For
exactly,
the collective, yeah, for
exactly.
both parties. It's not just about you, it's about
It's
the whole
not.
collective.
It's
Yeah.
not.
I'm with you, bro. I'm with you.
Right.
I'm with you.
So that's the big thing for me. You
Yeah.
know, make sure, yes, that you are doing what Dr. John said, that you are, finding that, maintaining that resolution. I mean, I just, my mind, again, this COVID fog is
Moving
killing me,
COVID fog, yeah.
but the, letting things go, and
Yeah,
making
yeah,
sure that you're holding on to those, those changes, and you're seeing the changes and you're believing the changes. At the same time, you have to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing
yeah,
and being consistent in a way that you're, addressing what's going on with you.
yeah.
Because if you don't do that, guess what? It's just going to keep coming back. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? So,
Absolutely, yeah. Well said,
Dr.
bro.
John, it is time for us to move on to those noble truths, man. Those noble truths. So, as we wrap up the show, Dr. John, please tell the people, what are your noble truths for this week?
Yeah, as I said earlier, it's important to, before you start seeking peace, slow down with yourself to understand peace for yourself and do an internal assessment. I truly do believe that. We don't do that enough as folks. We're just going and reacting, and I think we need to slow down even more. I like the idea of finding resolution. When Brother Reek said that, I really resonated with me because
Hmm.
that's at the heart of not being at peace. So
Right.
finding resolution, and as I mentioned before, if folks can recall, what you need to do is start with your needs, and
Hmm.
then really make sure that like once you identify what your needs are, you communicate them and you make them as clear, concise, and concrete, and to Brother Reek's later point, and be consistent, folks.
Those 4 C's, man. Those 4 C's. Don't forget what Dr. John said. Those 4 C's. Write them down. Keep those close.
Yep, yep, yep.
Right.
So those are my noble truths, brother. What about you?
My noble truths for this week are just a quick summary. Look it. First, you have to define what peace is.
Yeah,
Figure out what peace is to you personally, and what peace is for you and your mate as a couple.
yep,
Once you figure that part out, figure out what's getting in the way of having that peace. Again, these are conversations that you and your mate will have to have with one another. It's not just about what's going on with you,
right.
but how things are happening in between the two of you. Right. So have those conversations, figure out what's getting in the way of you guys having the peace that you already defined. And then comes the work of actually achieving the peace, making sure that you guys are communicating and resolving those issues so that you can move forward. And once you've actually resolved the issues, once you come to that conclusion or that decision around what we need to do differently so we don't keep running into those same problems, now you have to work to maintain it. Now you have to actually make sure that you are being consistent in your behavior and that you are letting things go so that you can move on. Right? That's paramount to making sure that you're maintaining the peace. If peace is what you want, you gotta work for peace. Peace don't just come to you. You gotta work for it.
Well said, man.
Right,
I
Dr.
like
John?
that. I like that. That needs to be on a t-shirt. You got to work for
You
peace.
gotta work for peace,
I
right?
love that, man. That's dope, bro. That's dope.
Yeah, Dr. John. Look, man, it's been great having you back here
Thank you,
again.
man. I'm back, man. I'm back.
Glad you're feeling better. Glad the family's feeling better. I'm
Thank you,
glad,
man.
hopefully I'll be feeling better soon.
I know, right? I know, right? But it is good to be back. Like, I love the energy. I miss the people.
Yeah.
As we always say, feel free to like reach out to us.
Yep.
To find
How can they hit you up, man? How can they hit you up?
Yeah, I tell people a lot, just like type in Dr. John Hart, you'll see a lot of things pop up. But, come show love at, www.kingsoftheheart.com. Come show love on the page. Like, we're doing a lot this upcoming year, so it's really, really exciting. Feel free to check out clinically www.rccmaryland, spell out Maryland.com. See all the amazing clinical work. And I'm always doing other great work, regarding criminal justice reform at the Vera Institute of Justice. So type in Vera, you type in John Hart, you'll probably be linked to Vera. But yeah, a lot of great moves, a lot of great things, and please reach out. We're here to help. I'm here to help. Brother Reek is here to help. So that's where you can find me, bro. Where can we find you, Brother Reek? You a busy man. You just as busy as I am, bro. Where can we find you?
I don't think I'm not. Hey, look it. I'm not on your level. I'm not on your level, man. I'm not even play like I'm on your level. But you can find me on all, what are they? IG and Facebook and all those places. The social media platforms. Yeah, you can find me as Tariq Omari Walton. You can go to my website, TariqOmariWalton.com, or my media website, viewsandvibes.com. Like Dr. John said, you can find us at kingsoftheheart.com. As you can see right here, we are live streaming on both Facebook and on YouTube now, so you can actually go to our pages on both of those places, the Kings of the Heart. And finally, I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Oh, of course, you can catch the Kings of the Heart podcast streaming on all the different streaming platforms. We are worldwide. We're coming to you audio, video. Hopefully we come to a stage near you sometime soon.
I know, right?
We miss the people, man. We got to be back out there with the people. That's where Dr. John and I, we are teachers. We like being in front of you, connecting. So hopefully we'll be doing that again soon.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. This is amazing, man. We're good to be back, man. Everybody take care.
Good to have you back,
man. Honestly, man, I'm feeling it. Hey, Brother Reek, you take care of yourself. Everybody, y'all stay safe out there. All right, and y'all see us soon, man. We're back, baby. Let's get it.
All right. Take care, everybody. Good to see you, Dr. John. Love you, bro. See you again soon.
Peace.
Peace.